You think you know Porsche, right? Well, the story of this legendary car company is packed with so many twists, turns, and frankly shocking secrets, you won't believe it. So, let's get into it, because we're about to uncover the Porsche story you don't know.
Right, so when I say the word Porsche, this is pretty much what your brain conjures up. You know the one. That unmistakable silhouette, the sloping roof, those two round headlights. It's pure performance. It's the iconic 911, and it's been an automotive legend for more than 60 years. But what if I told you the whole Porsche story doesn't start with some gas-guzzling sports car? Nope. It starts right here. This is the loaner Porsche from the year 1900. And its powertrain? Yep, that's electric. It even had a hybrid version. That's right, the very first car with the Porsche name on it was pioneering electric tech, over 100 years before it was cool. So how in the world do we get from an electric car in 1900 to the 911 we all know and love? To figure that out, we have to go back to the very beginning, to the man himself, Ferdinand Porsche. Now, this guy wasn't a suit. He was a pure, dyed-in-the-wool engineer, and his first big obsession was electricity.
Ferdinand Porsche was a true visionary. I mean, the guy was the brains behind some of the most legendary cars of the early 20th century. But he was also kind of a rebel, always clashing with his bosses at Mercedes-Benz, until he finally just went off and did his own thing. And that's when he got a call that would literally change automotive history. The German government wanted a people's car, a Volkswagen, and Ferdinand Porsche was their guy.
Now, here's where the story gets really wild. The sports car brand we know today was actually born from the ashes of World War II. While Ferdinand was imprisoned in France, his son Ferry Porsche took over the family business, which, at the time, was running out of a tiny sawmill in Austria.
In this quote from Ferry, "This is the heart and soul of the entire Porsche company. It's not just a mission statement. It's a declaration of independence. It's what makes Porsche, well, Porsche." This wasn't about market research or focus groups. This was about one guy's personal dream.
So how did he do it? Well, he got scrappy. He used what he had, which was the humble Volkswagen Beetle. He took its basic DNA, that rear-engine, air-cooled setup, and he just made it better. He tuned the engine, wrapped it in a light, sleek body, and the result was the Porsche 356, the very first car to officially wear the family crest. And you know what? The 356 was a massive hit. People loved it for its bulletproof reliability and its amazing handling. But by the late 50s, it was starting to show its age. The challenge was huge. How do you build a bigger, faster, more modern car that is still, without a doubt, a Porsche? So they unveiled its successor, the 901. Perfect, right? Well, one small problem. Turns out Peugeot had a trademark on any three-digit car name with a 0 in the middle. So in a super pragmatic move, Porsche just swapped the 0 for a 1. And just like that, the 911 was born, an icon created because of a legal complaint. Now, because these guys are engineers, they couldn't just leave the 911 alone. Of course not. They decided to bolt a turbocharger to it, and this introduced let's call it a tricky little characteristic called turbo lag. That first 911 turbo was an absolute monster. You'd put your foot down and you'd get nothing, and then all the power would hit you at once, usually right in the middle of a corner. You really had to know what you were doing to drive this thing. So the crazy thing is, this difficult, almost scary personality, it didn't hurt the car's reputation. It made it. Earning the nickname the Widowmaker was like a badge of honor. It became this legendary machine that you had to respect, and serious drivers absolutely loved it. But, even legends can die. By the late 70s, a lot of the top brass at Porsche actually believed the 911 was obsolete. They thought that quirky rear-engine design was a dead end. And this kicked off a period of, heresy and crisis that almost killed the entire company. Seriously, Porsche was having a full-blown identity crisis. They were trying to be something they weren't. The 928, their intended 911 replacement, was a great car, but it just wasn't a 911. And the fans let them know it loud and clear. On top of that, their factories were a total mess, building cars with old-school, inefficient methods. The company was literally on the verge of going bust.
In comes a new CEO, Wendell M. Wiedeking, and he came in swinging. He did two things that were considered totally radical. First, he hired Japanese consultants to teach his very proud German engineers about lean manufacturing. You can imagine how well that went over. Second, he approved a new, cheaper sports car, the Boxster, but with one huge catch. To save money, it had to share half its parts with the next 911.
So let's look at how these incredibly controversial decisions didn't just save Porsche from the brink, but actually set them up for the future and let them get back to their innovative roots. So the company's back on solid ground. And what's their next move? Another totally unthinkable bet, an SUV. Oh man, the media, the fans, they were furious. They screamed betrayal. But when the Cayenne came out in 2002, it instantly became the best-selling Porsche they had, period.
And here's the genius of it all. Those un-Porsche-like cars, the SUVs and the sedans, they made a ton of money. And all that profit went right back into the engineering department. It's what paid for the development of the most insane high-tech 911s and hypercars that Ferry Porsche himself could only have dreamed about.
And that brings us right back to the very beginning. With all that cash rolling in, Porsche could finally afford to go back to its roots. In 2019, they launched the Taycan, their first all-electric car in more than 100 years. The company that started with an electric dream proved that its future could be electric too, without ever losing its soul.
So what do we take away from all this? I think it's that the Porsche DNA has always been this fascinating balancing act. It's about tradition versus innovation. It's about making a luxury product that's also useful every day. It's about smart engineering, not just brute force. It's the simple idea that you should be able to win the hardest race in the world on Sunday and then drive that same car to work on Monday morning.
Look, the car world is changing faster than ever. But if this story has taught us anything, it's that Porsche thrives on a challenge. They've looked bankruptcy in the eye and came out stronger. They've been called heretics for building SUVs, and they were proven right. So as we head into this electric autonomous future, you have to ask, what does the dream car of tomorrow even look like? I don't know, but you can bet Porsche will be there, building it.